Hi everyone, my name is Marguerite Fora. If you're new here, I'm an aspiring author. My dream car is a minivan. I kind of have this big idea that one day I'll be fetching my kids as well as all of their friends, and they'll always be coming to my house. That's kind of the big goal, and I feel like a minivan, particularly one that is olive green at the bottom, is just ideal. Another thing about me is I still haven't read a romantasy book. I know in book club, one of the girls has actually purchased our first romantasy that we now have in book club, and she's read it and she's been on my case about reading it because she wants to discuss it with me. I'm keen. I just don't know what it is about the genre. It's just not pulling me in, but I will be reading a romantasy hopefully by the end of this year, but I'm not making any promises. Nothing against the genre, I just haven't read one yet. And final thing, I have a habit of buying notebooks for projects, and then I typically only fill the first third or first quarter of the notebook, and then I typically kind of move on, or I don't ever finish the notebook. However, I have made progress in this space. Later, I will be talking to you guys about my outline and stuff. But this notebook that I purchased, I actually have like these dividers in them. And so this works really well if you're like me and you find yourself only using like the first quarter or third of a notebook. So this is like one project. And then this is now going to be the start of another project. Because I also don't like discarding notebooks because the projects, or at least the sentimentality of starting a project or the ideas of a project, even though this project has changed quite significantly than what I have here, but I'm not ready to get rid of this. So yeah, that's kind of something I do. But the objective of this video is to walk you through what I'm doing for Preptober this year. And I am so excited to make this video because last year was my first attempt at Preptober, at writing a book in November. And I have always wanted to write a book. Ever since I could remember, I've wanted to write a book. But for some reason, I just never have. I've written lots of movies, but I think even just the idea of writing a movie was easier than the idea of writing a book, and writing a movie was always daunting. So yeah, I think I kind of wrote myself off for many reasons. Like most people, you kind of find reasons why you shouldn't do something. So I, felt like maybe I was too old to start writing a book. I'd never studied the art of writing a book, and I don't know. I think I just got to the point last year where I was kind of over my excuses. And so last year I was like, I'm going to write a book, man. I'm going to do it. And yeah, I went through Preptober and I wrote a book in November, and it was wonderful. And if you're in a space where you are wanting to write a book, but you're sort of not giving yourself the permission to because you are maybe holding yourself back. I think one of the things that would also hold me back is time. And I'm sure this is relatable. Like, I'm a mom, I have a job. Like, this is stuff that I'm doing in any free pocket of time that I have, or actually kind of have to create time to do this. But luckily for me, I've just finished a really hectic season with my work. And so things are opening up a tiny bit, and I'm just very grateful because it's opening up during this time where I actually want to write. And I don't know, if you are keen to write a book, then man, I really hope that you give yourself the freedom and the permission to just try, because just what it's done for me has been incredible. And if you're in that position, then I just want to champion you and encourage you and say, like, maybe something that I'm going to talk about today is going to resonate with you. So I'll tell you what I'm planning on doing. And there are lots of other videos like this on the internet. I encourage you to watch them because I watched loads of them last year. And it's so cool to know that there's a whole community of people that are keen to write their first book. And yeah, I'm excited to be part of that community. Woohoo! So I've made some notes and I'm just going to talk through them. The idea is to go through these quickly and as concise as possible. And yeah, I am excited for Preptober this year, and I'm going to first start with inspiration. So the first thing that I like to do before I work on any new project is to get inspired. And what's helped me get inspired this year, especially for this project, so it's a project that I'm starting from scratch. It's not what typically inspires me, but it's worked, so I'm just going to go with it. Now, I started reading this book, Scattered Minds. A girlfriend actually gave me her copy. I read this book to try understand somebody in my life and to just sort of like be the best person for this person. And upon reading this, I was like, oh my gosh, this is for me. So I finished my friend's book and then actually went and purchased my own copy. And I was surprised how this book challenged me and kind of also opened my mind to, yeah, just sort of how I operate. And I loved this book so much that I actually went and purchased this book from the same guy. And I'm freshly into it. I'm not that far into it. As you can see, I'm like this far into it. And again, like the themes of these two books are kind of cultural, which is interesting. And I like books that make me think, that make me challenge the norm. And these two books have. So they've inspired me to tackle my story from a different perspective, which is really cool. But these are two spaces of inspiration. The other book that really inspired me, guys, this is the most controversial book I've ever read, is All Fours. So this book, I originally came across at book club. Like one of my girlfriends put the book down and I was like, oh, what's that about? And she's like, don't read this. And I was like, gee, that's quite a visceral response to a book. But she's like, just don't read this book. Like she was so vehemently against it. Then how's this? The next morning I went for a run and I was just chatting to this lady about books and asked if she's got any recommendations. And she recommended this book. And I was like, what? No ways. Like my friend from book club just told me not to read it. And then she was recommending this book. So I was like, this is interesting. Then we had some new people join book club and the girls asked if we have this book. And I was like, oh my gosh, like more people are actually interested in reading this book. And I've did some research on the internet and I haven't seen more divided reviews. So I thought, let me read this book and form my own opinion. And let me say that I can understand why people either really love this book or they really hate this book. Now, one thing that I appreciated about this book is that it made me think for myself, because my objective with reading this was to form my own opinion. And I have formed my own opinion. But what was interesting is I quite liked the way that she wrote this without giving the protagonist a name. So you kind of read it and you feel like it's sort of your story because of how she wrote it. So I kind of liked the way she approached telling the story. So long story short, this book inspired me because it spoke on topics that aren't often covered, which is something that I'm going to be speaking on in the book that I plan to write during November. So I don't feel like I need to review this book or give you my opinion on this book, but it was a form of inspiration because I was like, okay, I want to write something now, which, it inspired me to take some sort of action to create something. And then the final piece of inspiration, this is hilarious, is a girlfriend suggested to me that I watch the series The Summer I Turned Pretty. And after reading these books or like spending my time working through them, like I kind of felt like I just needed a bit of a break. And instead of reading like a romance, which I would typically do, I thought like, let me start the series. And oh my gosh, I love this series. It's so brilliant. It's so brilliant. And the nice thing about the series is it inspires me to want to write. Like, I don't know if that happens to everyone, but I'm not really great at just consuming content and watching content. Like, I kind of get bored. And it's a nice place to be in because, like, I'm not good at just sitting still and doing nothing. And when I sit still and watch a series, especially a series this good, it inspires me to want to make something. So I'm going to uh, be sort of working my way through the series slowly, because there is a part of me that's like, oh man, like let me just pause everything and just finish the series because it's so good. But actually, I'm going to just keep slowly working through it because it is quite light and just takes me to a very happy, sort of gentle, youthful space, which is something that I'd like to channel for this book that I'm writing. So those are the things that are inspiring me for my book. And I would say that those are external influences. So that's just content that I've consumed. And another external influence that has inspired me has been conversations with friends. So I feel like there seems to be a general consensus of what moms with young kids are going through. And it's been interesting to just listen. And that's also inspiring quite a lot of what I want to write about. But then there's also internal influences. So next year, 2026, is going to be a big year of change for me. I'm making active decisions to let go of some things that have really formed part of my identity, which is quite difficult. And I've already slowly made changes this year, but next year I'm going to make bigger changes. And it's daunting and it's scary, but being aware of the changes that I want to make and having all of these other sources of inspiration as well, I'm channeling all of this to help me write this book. And it's burning up a fire in me. I'm excited. So that's inspiration. Now, the second thing that I am doing for Preptober is a bit of research. So I'm obviously reading books on subject matter that I feel like are going to impact the story that I'm going to tell. But I am also going to be seeing a psychologist or psychotherapist to try understand the thinking behind how culture gets us to move in certain directions in life. So one of the topics that I really want to tackle in my book is countercultural thinking and making up your own mind as it relates to a certain theme in the book that I'll be discussing. So yeah, I'm going to be speaking to an expert of human minds, and hopefully this is going to help me channel the character that I am going to be writing for my book. Then the third thing that I am doing is rough outlining my story. So not really rough outlining my story, but more the beats. So how I've done this, I've got this notebook that I spoke to you about earlier. And what I've done is I've created a rough outline of the days. So I'm hoping to write a book in 30 days. I've got the hero's journey. So we've got, the ordinary world, the call to action, the trials, the inner conflict. I mean, I'm using hero's journey, but I'm also using beat sheet. So if you've never outlined a story before, you can just Google story outlines, and this will give you a typical idea of how stories work. I also have videos on this channel, which I will link in the description for you, that just talks about different acts. So what happens in Act 1, Act 2, Act 3. So I've got an idea of how my acts are going. I've got like ideas of the emotional focus, like the awakening, resistance, the truth, the transformation. I've got key questions, what's missing in my protagonist's lives? What's going to be the cost to change? Why is it so hard to let go of one of her biggest desires / impulses? And what does success look like for her? So I have made quite a bit of, it's not pretty, but I mean, it's working for me. So just what we're focusing on Act 1, what my sort of ideal chapter 1 would be, chapter 2, chapter 3, chapter 4. Then I go into Act 2. And yeah, I've got like Act 3 and Act 4. I haven't gotten Act 5. And I typically don't do Act 4s. I usually just go Act 1, Act 2, Act 3. But I think with all fours. So she went up to part 4, and I kind of call it Act 4 in my outline. But yeah, I kind of like the way she structured the book. So I think I'm following a similar structure, although our books are not anything alike at all. And yeah, so this is just what I've done in terms of outline. If you want me to dig deeper into this, please let me know. But I kind of feel like this is more relevant to me and my story. You can just create your own outline. I find outlines to be so helpful just in terms of helping me disconnect myself from the story, because sometimes I just want to write my whole experience and my whole story, but that's not this. I'm writing a fictional piece, so it's helpful to know like how I can inject parts of myself into each chapter, but it's not my story that I'm telling. Now, the fourth thing that I am planning to do is I'm going to be working with a writing coach during the 30-day journey. And my idea of working with a coach is to have accountability and also to just talk through my story, because what I have found is I can write a first draft and then I can just make so many plot mistakes that there's so much that I have to change when I go through the revisions. And I'm sure this happens to everyone, but maybe it just happens to me. Anyway, so it's going to be nice to include a writing coach, because it'll just be cool to talk through things and brainstorm certain parts that I might be getting stuck in, or I might be feeling like in Act 3 something's not working, but usually that's an Act 1 problem. So it'll be nice to work with a writing coach, and hopefully I'm going to be doing a podcast episode with her as well. So you guys will get to meet her, but that's one of the things that I'll be doing differently this year. And then finally, the fifth thing that I'm doing for Preptober is just setting out my goals. So what my goals are roughly is I want to finish a book in 30 days. I want to focus on a time-based approach more so than a word count approach, because with my life, there are, and I'm sure again, anybody works, anybody's good kids, you understand, like we don't just have time. So there are some days where I can make time and then I'll just be like drilling down on those days. There are other days when I'll only be able to write like maybe half an hour. I'll just see how it goes, but I'm going to be setting out times closer to the time once I just look at what my calendar is going to look like. And yeah, that's going to be my approach, time-based. And then the final goal is just my hope for the book. So for the OGs, the people who've been here for a while, you'll know that I actually wrote a book last year. And for reasons that we've discussed in other videos, I've decided not to move ahead with pushing that book out into the world. And I just felt like with this project, I need to give myself the same freedom. So I have no desired outcome with this book. This might just be a book for me that I need to read for me. I'm not quite sure if this is something I want to share, because it is quite vulnerable. And yeah, I just don't know if this is something that I want to share with the world, but it is something I want to write, and it is something that I want to shape into a book. So we'll see. But I have no desired outcome. This is quite a freeing experience to just write something, to put in so much effort for no other reason than me just wanting to do that. At the same time, I am still working through my debut novel, and I actually just got feedback from a beta reader today, so I'll be working through that, and then I'm getting more feedback at the end of this week, so I'm getting lots of feedback on that and just sharpening that book. And hopefully I'll be reaching out to agents at the end of this year for that book. So that'll be exciting. But yeah, that's got nothing to do with Preptober or my goal for writing a book in November. But yeah, that's how I will be approaching Preptober as well as writing a book in November. I'm very grateful that you shared your time with me. And if you're in the space where you are hoping to write your first book or another book in November, then good luck. Yeah, I'll catch up with you in a future video. Take care. Bye.